Welcome back to Shine In and Out, the space where science meets soul. I'm your host, Sammy Stoltz, and today we have the honor of sitting with Sonya Achara, the author of Remember Who You Are, My Journey to Higher Consciousness, and founder of Remember Who You Are, 222 LLC, and creator of the Lead with Heart community. Sonya is a living example of what it looks like to rise beyond subconscious patterns and create a life rooted in compassion, authenticity, and fulfillment. She's currently pursuing her master's in consciousness and transformational leadership, and she's here to share the wisdom of her journey, how remembering who we truly are is not only possible, but incredibly powerful. Let's jump in. All right, Sonya, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'd love to start with a little bit about you, who you are, and how you got to where you are today.
So I basically grew up in an emotional, neglectful childhood. And I had a mother that was very emotionally and physically abusive. And it just was I guess it just became the norm for me. So I kind of dove into sports as my sports was my outlet, and I got really good at sports. I was playing soccer, running track. I ended up running track for San Diego State University, so I really got good at I just love pushing my body past its limits. It was just something about that pain that made me feel more alive, I guess.
It was chosen pain, right?
Yeah. Chosen pain. And so, having grown up just feeling lonely the whole time and not, just being alone and not feeling like the world was against me, sports was my, that outlet, that therapy. And then once that ended in college, it was I had lost that identity. So I had to find something else. And I chose to join the Marine Corps out of all branches.
Wow. Woo!
And so, yeah, I was and I just believed in myself from the jump. I was oh yeah, if I'm going to do it, I got to do the hardest thing. So,
it's definitely pushing your body.
Yeah. And I always I had always seen those women, those badass women. I don't know if I can curse, but those, those badass women on TV that were kicking butt and just, I always looked up to that for some reason. And so I was just very drawn to it. I joined the Marine Corps, and I even ended up becoming a martial arts instructor in the Marine Corps.
Dang!
And there was a lot of different things I did in the Marine Corps. I was bodybuilding while I was in the Marine Corps. I ended up doing really well. It became a passion of mine. And then I built a whole team too. Me and this one guy, he was a good friend of mine. We built a team together, and that went well for a while. So I even was a recruiter for a while. So I learned a lot about business and how to be resilient. And instead of taking the rejection as personal, I learned to not take it so personal and basically, just keep pushing and focus on actually helping people and getting out in the community. And so I ended up doing really well on recruiting duty. And then as I progressed in my career, I became a force fitness instructor. So I definitely dealt with a lot of ups and downs. The Marine Corps is a very, I would say a lot of leaders tend to lead from fear versus from heart. And the whole time I chose to lead from heart, and I was drawn to the leaders that did. And so it was really about, that heart-centered leadership. It just didn't resonate for me to be that type of leader that yells at their Marines or talks down to them or anything like that. So I found, honestly, the way that I treated them as equals instead of subordinates. And it was more like a mentorship type of role. And they had a lot more respect for me and actually went above and beyond for me because of the way that I respected them.
Exactly.
So I definitely believe that, and I've seen for my own eyes how much heart-centered leadership can affect not just a couple people, but a whole command. And so I ended up getting out of the Marine Corps. It was actually my past coming back to me. I didn't realize through all the success I was having, there was a lot of subconscious things that I was pushing down. I kept myself so busy so that I wouldn't go home and deal with my own stuff. And so it really had to hit me all at once, where my last command, I had a toxic leader, then I was in a toxic relationship, and it was all of it. And so I really had to kind of take a deep look. within myself and figure out like what is this about. And I realized I hadn't healed the wounds from my mother. And so I started seeing the patterns, and I started seeing the people in my life that had these toxic traits that I didn't realize before, because I had
Mm.
always kind of saw the good in people.
Yes.
And so I started learning how to set boundaries with people. I stopped caring about losing people, when before I had this anxiety where like I felt like I couldn't, like I didn't want to lose people, at least the closest people to me. There was people I didn't
Totally.
want to lose. And so I was able to, it's weird though too, because in my career I was able to kind of have a balance, but in my personal life I always had that anxiety. I was always overgiving,
Mm-hmm.
pouring too much of myself and not having boundaries within myself, and I thought I was I thought I was just being a good person.
Dude, been there.
Yeah. And I bet a lot of women can even, see themselves in my story, when it like, where you just pour and pour and pour. But what I finally realized is that you have to pour into yourself before it can, go out into others. And so I really had to take a deep look within myself. It's been about 2 years of just like deep inner work. I had like this awakening too. It was like this big spiritual awakening where it was like I started figuring out like how the universe works, and it was like all this science plus spirituality stuff that was coming in, and just figuring out what it is that I'm meant to do here. And I realized that's what actually brought me to the program that I have now, and it's called Lead with Heart, and it's geared towards women in business and just women leaders out there. And all of us are leaders in our own ways too. Like, whether it's being a mom, with your friends, with your family, with your, at your job, there's ways that you can provide leadership. And so it's really for people who maybe successful people out there that still feel unfulfilled, or there's a lot of different people that it can actually benefit. But I've created different feminine leadership archetypes, and these are just
Hmm.
ways that these archetypes I use to be able to explain more like what heart-led leadership is versus fear-led leadership, and how to actually integrate it within yourself to lead more from the heart, because there's a lot of things that people don't know is leading from fear. Like there were a lot of things I didn't know where I was leading
Mm.
from fear in a lot of different areas of my life. And so it's just something I feel is needed in the
Yeah,
world today.
absolutely. That's what we're about. More of what the world needs. I love that.
Yeah,
Leading with
exactly.
the heart. I mean, to me, there's only love and fear. And if you're leading with the heart, that is following, everything that is your highest self and helping other people become their highest selves. And if you're leading with fear, it's usually because fear was instilled in you by a previous leader, and you think that that's the only way to do it. So I love that you're out there teaching people. For those that don't necessarily know the difference, how do you go about describing how they come across differently?
Yeah, so a lot of times fear will feel like constriction in your body.
Mm.
And a lot of times our body actually tells us things. We just don't really like listen to it. And so it can feel like constriction somewhere in the body. It can feel like anything that's like leading with control, micromanaging,
Mm.
trying to control the situation. There's also, what else leading from fear? There's a lot of people that try and manipulate a situation, because
Mm.
then that's part of control. So they try and think they can control the situation. And so it's really about the intention also. Like, what is the intention?
Mm.
And people do just lead from fear because that's what they were taught. Like, people were bullied, so then they bully others. And that's bullying in itself, is like a fear. Like, even if you're that type that gets really like startled, and you feel like you always need to fight, or just stuff like that, that's all fear-based type of.
Exactly. Exactly. They're all survival techniques, right? Fight,
Mhm.
flight,
Mhm.
freeze, fawn, all of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I
And
feel like so
acknowledging
many
that.
people are,
Yeah.
yeah, are actually in their fight or flight state all the time.
Oh,
And we weren't meant to we weren't meant to be in that state.
you're saying
Um
it all. This is everything I'm trying to preach to people. And the fact that so many people don't know that they think that the
Mhm.
way that they're living is natural or normal, yet our biology is screaming because
Mhm.
we're supposed to, yeah, have acute stress for survival instincts, but not this chronic, everyday, high stakes situation that we're putting ourselves in. So I love that you used physical outlets instead. I mean, of course, any type of coping rather than the healing isn't as
Mhm.
preferable as the healing, but you chose really constructive coping mechanisms, and I very much respect that. I too find physical outlet to be incredibly helpful, even just like from an anxiety perspective or mental struggle perspective, because it's almost like you exhaust your body to the extent that your mind can't bother you anymore. Is that kind of what you experience?
Yeah, really, like, yeah, you do, and the the endorphins that you get from it as well. It does
Yeah.
kind of put you in a better state after you work out and stuff like that. But what I will say is that it didn't make my anxiety any less.
Mm,
It didn't. I will say there was a time frame where I was able to have enough passion to not drink alcohol, but if I wasn't actively competing for a show, like when I was on recruiting duty,
mm,
I had a lot of alcohol cravings and drinking way too much alcohol. And so really when I finally honestly when I had that awakening, it was like I call it like a quantum healing experience because I literally in like a matter of 2 or 3 days
wow.
it was, like, c completely gone. It was, like, completely no anxiety. Like, the lifelong anxiety that I had had was gone. The alcohol cravings was gone. And it's like now it's not that I don't drink at all, but I am able to be a lot more intentional with it. Like, okay, am I drinking because something happened today that was, like, negative, or am I drinking
Hmm.
because I just wanna have fun and in the moment I'm with friends or something? And
As an
so I'm just a lot
enhancement,
more.
not a band-aid.
Yeah,
That's really
exactly,
great.
because that's the issue.
And I
It's when
love how you
people.
spoke about how your lessons kept popping back up. The things that you hadn't healed keep coming back in
Mhm,
other relationships and all of those things. And
mhm,
I think so many people don't realize that that's why, that it's an opportunity to heal. Instead, it's like, why do I always attract narcissists and abusive partners? And is that just what I'm supposed to be like? No, honestly, it's usually because that's what you were taught is the norm and you need to
mhm,
get out of that trauma cycle. So
mhm.
for the way that you did it was just looking at yourself and taking that time. What exactly would you recommend to people that was so helpful to you in order to heal like that?
So, honestly, it's really about asking yourself the right questions because our body does hold intelligence within it.
Mhm.
And it was really when I asked myself the question, like, how am I getting myself in this situation? How did I get myself in this situation? And like the answer comes. Like, it's crazy because science has proven now that the thoughts that we think, the emotions we feel, they go out into the universe. We have an electromagnetic field. And so they go out into the universe and then we receive signals all the time as well. And so it's like we're creating our own reality subconsciously or
Mhm.
consciously.
Yeah.
So it's just once you look at it and you're able to really see it for what it is and heal from it, then you start becoming more of a conscious creator
Yes.
versus subconsciously creating.
Yeah, you can't
Because the
unsee
thing
it. You
is,
can't live the way you used
yeah,
to once you have those realizations.
yeah, you can't because the thing that I realized it was crazy because I tried so hard to get away from my mom and in doing that you still attract those people so it's like you can never run away from it. You have to face it. Like if you don't face it in that person, it's going to keep coming until you actually face it. So that's why you
Totally.
continue to see the same patterns.
And what did facing it look like for you? Because I think a theme that we see so much is the fear of addressing those
Mhm.
things that are so powerful that we've been working to avoid them for so long. How
Mhm.
did you get the courage and what was your technique to release that and feel safe doing so?
So I'm gonna be honest, like it really took a crazy situation for me to finally look at like want to face
Sometimes it
my,
does.
yeah. And that's what I realized that when you keep running from it,
Mm,
the universe is going to send you bigger and bigger, until you finally look and be like, okay, what the heck do I need to do? And so by then it was like, well, I'm just going to do what I need to do. And so, I did find a mentor, and I was able to, basically start learning how to actually feel my feelings,
Mm,
because for the longest time I had shut my feelings out and I pushed them to the back. And so I bypassed so many things that I had to literally like go back throughout my whole life. And these are the times I felt this. Why did I feel this way?
mm.
What would I want instead? So all of those things, like, I had to literally write down. And I've done so much of this work. It's literally my whole life that I look back on, and I wrote it all out. Like, I have journals, journals full of it.
I've totally found that writing things out is like a master key to unlocking and understanding yourself and those feelings. I love
Mhm.
how you said you started feeling your feelings, because a lot of us think it's an inevitable thing, or I can't stop from feeling my feelings. That's why they're so bothersome. But the fact that we all try to push them down and not
Mhm.
fully process and let them go is why they
Mhm.
stay stuck, and why we experience these ongoing patterns until we do that healing. And in hosting this podcast, a big part of that is wanting people to realize that they don't have to suffer for as long as you or I did, that they can work through the things now before it all bubbles up and something has to trigger it, and slowly be able to let things go and just be healthier and happier along the way. And you were talking about boundaries, and also the title of your book is Remember Who You Are. And
Mhm.
I love that because I'm all about the knowledge that we already have. We have everything we need. And it's all about actually taking the time to listen and understand. So what brought you to writing that? What was your experience like? What do you hope people get from it?
So it's really an interesting story. So I really had this, like, when I had my spiritual awakening, I was like on this high. It was a spiritual high, and this was a natural state. I didn't use any psychedelics or anything. It was just putting myself in a natural, euphoric, using breath work,
Hmm.
a mantra, movement. I had a movement. I had a lot. I just dove all in, and so it was like the movement mantra. It was like a day and morning and night breath work and meditation, and I literally put myself in such a euphoric state that it shot me up into the clouds, basically, to where I'm like seeing the higher perspective and why I remembered why I came here, and basically that I chose my parents. I
Mm.
remembered that, I chose everything that I was going to go through in order to learn a lesson that my soul needed in order to expand and grow. And so when I saw it from that perspective, it just like changed everything. And I was able to, like, time didn't matter because time is an illusion anyway. And so
Yeah.
it really gave me that view of how time really is an illusion, because I was able to do so many things. I wrote this book. It's like 200 and something pages, and I wrote it in a month's time. I was just sitting down and it was just coming out.
That's
Like,
how
it was
you know you were
flowing.
flowing. Yeah.
I was writing speeches and delivering these speeches like a pro. I was just like, it was all flowing. And then I came down from this spiritual high and then was confused. And I was like, what do I do from here? Like, I don't know what to do. And I realized I had to integrate what I knew. Like, I couldn't just stay in the clouds. I had to integrate what I knew. So I found like a mentor. She does sacred geometry. She does like your sacred geometry signature.
Hmm.
And it really was a good way to integrate the spiritual with how we're here to operate
Mm.
and who we're meant to be, basically. And so I was able to uncover a lot of things and create this program. And it was like, I really had to get in my feminine energy, slow down, because I was always in that like hustle culture, to
Totally.
like, oh, I feel like I have to do in order to provide income for
All of us.
myself.
Yeah,
But
totally.
yeah, so I ended up writing this book. It was back in February when I wrote it, and then basically, what was the last part of your question?
What do you hope that it imparts upon people?
Yeah, so I will say that that book is really, so it was a memoir, and it was basically my life, the good, the bad, the ugly, and it just shows like a journey of transformation, like
Mm.
a woman who went through all these things throughout her life, but was able to like rise from the ashes and create something amazing and did it as a single mom.
Yeah.
So it's
Wow.
really, I really feel like it's just the initial story that can kind of maybe trigger, activate something in others to know that they can do it too.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so, but I've learned so much since I wrote the book that I'm gonna have to like write another book.
Oh, yeah. You should call it Phoenix because you rose from the ashes. I love that. And the way that you explained that the mindfulness practices and all of those things were what allowed you to do the healing makes so much sense because those practices, research shows, like meditation, visualization, they alter your brain activity, increase your frontal lobe
Mhm.
engagement, and calm the amygdala. And then you're able to approach it from a safe and healing space. So it's so powerful that you do that. And I love trying to find those connections between the soul and the science of things. Do you have any insight on any
Mhm.
just personal insight on where you think they meet, what you think they have in common?
Yeah, I love it. I love that because my mom was very religious, so I was always
Mm.
had questions about religion and like I didn't agree with it. So I was a truth seeker. I had to find the truth. And so that's why I came into my spirituality through science. And so it was really through neurology, quantum physics, and the best way that I would probably describe the science meeting the spirituality is with both of those. Basically, the fact that there's the quantum field is the
Mm-hmm.
field where everyone is connected. And so when you get to that 0 point energy, and the 0 point energy for people who don't know what that is basically when you're present. So when you really come into presence in the now, you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future, you're in the now. That is the 0 point field. And when you're in the 0 point field, you could literally grab any information that's in the field. And basically there's infinite amount of information out there. There's infinite intelligence, infinite possibilities. And I've even experienced, because you still will get tested once you get into this
Mm-hmm.
spiritual side of things, but you know how to handle things better because like I'm able to calm myself down with the breath work and then really ask myself like, okay, how do I get myself out of this situation? And I've literally had like the vision come to me in the exact time that I needed it. And so it's crazy, like just the things that I've been through in the last like 8 months. In the last
That's
8 months,
incredible, isn't it?
I've done so many different experimentations and just seeing like my reality shift. And that is that so that 0 point field is uh I call it source energy,
Hmm.
because it's not like people always call God like but the creator is basically our energy source. It's a combination of male and female energies, masculine and feminine energies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's not, it's just an energy. We're all made of energy. That's another
Oh,
science
yeah,
thing,
exactly.
is that we're all energy and we do have a creator, but he made us in his own image. So creators, we are creators of our own reality. And there are certain ways that we have to pray. And that's why words and emotions play a big part, because we can get what we want. We just have to know how to say it and how to feel it.
Hmm. That's interesting. So being raised religious, like super hardcore religious, most people seem to go into one box or the other of full renunciation, no religion, or full on in that religion that they were raised with. So it seems like you took a path
Mhm.
to find your own definition of whatever your source, God, universe may be. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I also loved that you said the things don't stop coming just because you've done the work. I think that is a huge misconception that enlightenment is you're not bothered by anything. Completely false. It is you're super, normal and bothered by things, but it's so easy for you to overcome them because now you realize what truly matters and you have the tools to move through them and let them go instead of holding
Mhm.
on and creating grudges and all of those things. So
Yeah, exactly.
you have your leadership with the heart, and for accomplished women who feel like something is missing, what do you think that missing piece is?
So usually women that are successful but aren't fulfilled, a lot of those women are probably single. A lot of those women, they're in their they're really in their masculine. And I know
Mm.
because I've been there before too, where I was like super in my masculine, just being a female in the Marine Corps, having to provide for ourselves. Like, just in this day and age, women are so much in their masculine that they don't know how to be in their feminine. So, but women, when we truly learn how to lean back into our feminine energy, we can actually accomplish more and have a more fulfilled life in general, because we can still accomplish things. But instead of people, I've seen two different types of women. Basically, the fear-led women that, people are afraid of because they're like the boss lady and, she's super hard. But that's the fear-led leadership.
Exactly.
And so this changes your whole life because you become loved by people at work, and not everybody's going to love you. You are going to trigger people even when you're in your heart space, you will trigger people because that's triggering their wounds within them.
Hmm.
And
Can't
so
avoid
you
it.
just really have to learn. You just have to learn to really get in your feminine energy. And basically, it's crazy because I could talk about this stuff forever, but like I've literally learned how to get into my feminine energy, how to date consciously.
Mm.
And I've literally seen, like, now I know like the geometry of it and how it really works,
Mm.
like with sacred geometry. So
Interesting.
yeah, and so you have the triangle, and one side of the triangle is self-respect. The other side of the
Mm.
triangle is your desire of what you want, and then the base of the triangle is clarity. And so if your
Wow.
self-respect isn't there, it's going to be off. It's not a right triangle. And so it's not going to ever work out for the long run. And
Yeah.
so then you also have those people that don't know what they want. So then the triangle is still off.
So true. So true.
And so it's really just that, you have to have that perfect triangle where it's,
You
your
need that
self-respect,
equilateral.
and your desires clear to the universe. So, and I've literally seen, the guys that I used to date, and wasn't conscious of all this stuff. I've seen them fall off. Because I don't put up with the things I used to put up with.
Hmm.
And so they're just falling away. I don't have the same emotional reaction. That was another thing I've realized is women tend to romanticize. And so we'll
Mm.
romanticize, we'll see this man at their higher vibrational version of themselves, but what we're not looking
Totally.
at is where they're at now. And
Totally.
so
We see potential.
I've literally I've literally like caught myself doing that in the dating phase. And so that's the thing. The real work is actually, the old me would have been like gotten tired of dating, and just like gave up for a while. But I was like, no,
Mm.
let me see what happens. Like, it's literally an experimentation for me now. So,
Isn't that so fun?
um, yeah, it is. It's
Life
like
is an
fun.
experiment. Treat it like a game. Learn as you go. It's not so serious. I love that.
Yeah. And I've literally met better and better men I'm attracting. And so it's just about tweaking your desires from there. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I didn't like this part. So let's, and I write everything down. Like, what is my dream partner? Because they
Oh,
exist.
yeah. I did that
But
too.
because they exist, you just have to be super clear on what you want and then not
Exactly.
accept anything less.
Exactly.
And
So
so
many
that's
people
where
are
women,
unsatisfied in life, and it's because they don't know what they want. I'm like, you'll never be satisfied until you figure that part out.
yeah, yeah.
And sometimes it's trial and error to figure out what you want. Just
Hmm. It
move
is.
toward
And
that.
and that's okay. Like, it's okay if you meet people and they're not the one, if they only are there for a short time. And I think that's the thing that we need to get through to us is not getting so emotionally involved so quick,
Hmm.
and just see it for what it is,
Well, yeah,
basically.
that
And that's what
self-respect.
I've learned to do.
Yeah. Is this worth my time and energy? That's instead of,
Mhm.
does he like me? Do you think he likes me?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
And
it's
that's self-love. Like, you're
yeah.
lacking self-love and self-worth. And I was that person.
Yeah.
I had to do a lot of inner work in order to really learn what
Totally.
it means to truly love myself. And
Totally.
so,
And there's a difference between confidence and self-esteem too. I'm sure as, a bodybuilder and an athlete and a
mhm,
marine, like that's all amazing things. You probably were confident in your abilities to do all of those things, but it doesn't mean that you have that self-esteem and self-respect and
mhm,
self-love. And a lot of people think, "Oh, I'm fine, I'm confident." But No, you need the love
Yeah,
too.
you hit it on the head because when I first was told, yeah, it was really when I was told, when I was first told that I had a low self-esteem, it stung because I was like, wait, I'm confident. I
I'm
was like,
crushing it
I'm
though.
confident. Yeah, I'm doing all these things. And they're like, no, but in your relationships, you have
Mm,
low self-esteem. You
mm.
have this pattern of, and that was when I first went to go see a therapist. So I do feel like the therapist I went to go see, because I've tried a bunch of different therapists throughout my life, and it just didn't click. But the therapist that I saw was like telling me how it was, and I was like, okay. I was like, well, dang,
No, that's so real.
I
Some
didn't know
people
this
give up
about
on
myself.
therapy. Yeah, some people give up on therapy after one practitioner, two practitioners. I'm like, I'm still searching for my click, but I'm not going to stop trying because
Yeah.
I know how powerful it can be, you know? I've had great therapists, but maybe not the one that I want to be with, long term. But I love that you kept trying and that you found one. I think that's a great message in and of itself. When you talk about the feminine energy and all of that, I think especially when it comes to women in leadership and the society that we have that rewards hustle culture and performance, how do you teach these women to lead boldly while also still having their compassion and their authenticity and learning to be in that feminine, learning that they don't have to be this image that society necessarily
Mhm.
tells them to be successful and to be a great leader?
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the thing when we're trying to prove and trying to push and always trying to prove ourselves, that's it being in our masculine energy too much.
That's fear. Will they not respect me?
Yeah, exactly. That is fear. Yeah. That is leading from fear. And so really leading from heart is being able to actually lean back and not care what people think. And it takes time. Like it really does take time because you have to unprogram, you have to deprogram yourself from all the things that you've learned in your whole life. And that's why I do like an 8-week program because it's really in depth where it's like one-on-one and they're telling me what's going on in their life. And I'm able to, since I've done the inner work, I'm able to see the patterns that
Mm-hmm.
they can't see.
Totally, totally.
And so I'm able, yeah. So I'm
It's
able
so
to see the
clear.
path. Yeah, yeah.
Once you
Like
get there,
once
it's
you,
so clear. And it's like so
yeah,
hard to watch everybody suffer when they don't need to be suffering. I mean, that's why I feel such a call to help. Absolutely. I love that.
yeah. I do believe people like us that have kind of woke up to that. We do have that purpose to kind of guide people. But I have always been the type that wanted to help. But I've realized that people don't need help and they don't need fixing. And everyone has their timeline of when
Journey.
their journey. And so it's not my place to
You're a
go out there and
guide
convincing people, but yeah, but I do
when they
believe
look
that
for it.
our soul clients are gonna they're gonna find us as long as
Yeah.
we're putting a clear signal out into the universe. Our soul clients are gonna find us, and we're gonna be able to, activate within them, really activating within them their activating within
Their
them
inner knowing.
within their inner knowing,
Yeah,
basically.
totally.
It's not healing. I don't like to say like fixing because none of us are broken. It's all like part of the process.
It's not healing, it's revealing your true self.
Yes, there you go. That's a good one.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. So a big part of that healing is taking the time for yourself. And all of these, women in leadership, and they're always busy and doing all these things, and
Yep.
perhaps oftentimes feel guilt when they try to rest
Yep.
or take time for themselves. What do you
Hmm.
suggest? How did you come to feeling comfortable and prioritizing taking that time for yourself to heal, to meditate, to do all of those self-care rituals?
So that was also working through my own fear. I had to work through my own fears of if I rest, how am I going to make money? If I rest, how am I going to provide for my son? It's all those fears that do come in,
Yeah.
but it's
And they're
really
real.
about, yeah, they're going to come in and they never go away. You just learn how to deal with them. But I'm actually at the point where I'm learning how to befriend my fears, like have a dialogue with it. That's part of my master's program too.
I love that.
We're talking about basically having a dialogue with the so-called negative emotions and being like,
Yeah.
okay, you kept me safe, but this is what we're going to do from now on. And you're basically, and that's part of geometry too, is you have to have, it's like the yin yang, the geometry, all of it is like you have to have the balance with the positive in order to create.
I love that. It's actually something that's a tenet in so many different things, scientific, religious. Like I know there's a story in Buddhism where Buddha literally invites that, you know, evil version to tea
Mhm.
and discusses with it. It's not fear anymore. Like internal family systems psychology, which is a fairly new field, it's talking to those versions of yourself that felt the
Mhm.
need to protect you and telling them, it's okay. I'm safe now. I don't need those
Mhm.
behaviors anymore. I understand why you did it. It's being gentle. And, because your brain doesn't know, don't do that because all it focuses
Mhm.
on is the that, not
Mhm.
the don't. It's the that because you're bringing it right to the
Yeah.
forefront and keeping it there. So
Mhm.
that is very powerful. I love that. And as far as
Yeah.
simple daily practices for people just starting out, what do you say is like your go-to when you need to understand something, when you need to have a healing moment? What type of techniques do you use? What tools?
So for me, I like to connect with nature. Like I have this lake that I go to and meditate at basically. And that's like where I feel like at home when I'm there and I'm just like taking it
Man,
in.
I do the same
And that
thing.
is yeah, and so it is that taking that time to rest and to like just stop and relax and like tune into the field. You're
Yeah.
tuning into the field. It's that 0 point field, and that's really where you get the intelligent answers from, like
Yeah.
we do all have the capabilities, and so that's why I don't agree with like the old way of how in schools people would be like, oh, if they're doing bad in school they're just doomed type of thing.
Yeah.
I believe that you have to speak life into people and they're gonna
Yes.
do a lot better.
Beautifully said. That's more of what the world
Mhm.
needs right there. Yeah. And listening to your body to know when it needs that grounding time. Definitely.
Mhm.
Like if you're feeling
Yeah,
angsty, it's not a problem. It's a signal. Your body's trying to tell you it needs a little extra TLC. And I'm glad
yeah,
I'm glad you learned to listen to that. So,
yeah. Another thing I wanna add it to that, just sorry, but it
no,
just,
no.
it won't so it just came to my mind and I wanted to say it, but it's really just the reason why we even get, like, diseases in our body is because it's trapped energy. So when we actually take the time to do all this work, like all the inner work, with all the grounding I've been doing just in the past 8 months, all the pain that I used to have, like I used to be so tight being in the Marine Corps and even
Oh,
working out and just everything was so tight. And now like I rarely have pains anymore because of all the work, the grounding, like all these different things that I do.
it's
So I really
incredible.
believe
I'm so
that's
glad you
like
mentioned that.
I believe eventually, like, medical doctors might be out of work.
I'm not going to lie to you. I am a prime example of that. What triggered my whole journey here was I pushed myself so hard that I got a chronic illness. And
Mhm.
doing this work is ultimately what healed me. It wasn't, taking pills or, doing all the protocols that I did try. It was releasing and changing
Mhm.
my perspective and learning a much healthier way to live overall.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to teach people because they're suffering. They're either mentally suffering, in pain suffering, or both.
Mhm.
And I want to teach them, I want to empower them to release that themselves.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I'm not telling people to not go to a doctor because I do
Of course. No,
believe
of course.
that there's gonna be a time period where we have to really learn to integrate this
Yes, science and
and
soul, Eastern
be in
and Western,
sees
yin and yang, all of it.
but once you integrate it, yeah, it's gonna be really only, like, emergencies that you need doctors for.
It's the things that medicine doesn't have an answer for. It's usually something more spiritual
Mhm.
or inner healing that you need to work through. That's totally, I've seen tons of that. And I
Mhm.
wonder, as you're pursuing your master's in consciousness and transformational leadership, what excites you the most about the future of these fields?
So it is exciting because I see it growing. And I think what excites me the most is just being in it and seeing that we are co creating a better earth. Like, we literally
Yes.
are. And that's really what excites me the most about it. Like, I don't think for me, it's not a question of if it's going to happen. It's more of when it's going to happen.
I love that. It is a trend that we're seeing. More people are waking up, and I love it. I love to see it.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, it's so easy to focus on the negative because we see all of the news all around the world, not just in our locality like we used to. And so it seems like there's so much negative. And of course, there
Uh-huh.
is, but there is a
Yeah.
balance and there is so much positive if you choose to look for
Right.
it. And that is one of those things, those people all around the world that are waking up and coming together to make the world a better place. And I want to shine the spotlight on that. Um,
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, if we really want to change the world, we have to focus on the good and not the negative. Like, even though that is the negative is happening, I believe that it has its place and it has to bubble up in order to, all the bad things got to bubble up in order to
transformation.
transform it, to alchemize it basically.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what happened to
So,
us, right? It's not even quote unquote bad. I mean, I can't say the same thing for war because I truly never think it should be necessary. But, yeah, there's a reason for everything and it all comes out. And one last thing that I'd like to hear your explanation on because I know, Dr. Joe Dispenza, a lot of the quantum people, the scientists and the spiritualists alike talk about how time is an illusion. And you
mhm.
mentioned that. So I'd like to hear how you came to that realization before.
Yeah, so actually Dr. Joe Dispenza is one of the big ones I listen to. He was actually the one for my awakening. Like, I used one of his,
He's
it was
great.
off of his, yeah, it was one of his YouTube videos and I just wrote it down. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. And
That's so
so,
funny.
yeah, but yeah, say the question one more time.
What does time is an illusion mean to you?
Oh, so yeah, so time is an illusion because in the spirit realm, there is no time. It's basically everything is happening all at once. And so past, present, future happening all at once, parallel realities. And the only reason why we have the perception of time is because we have slowed, our frequency is so low that time has basically slowed down, but
Mm.
we are always able to go into the 0 point field and, grab anything from past, present, future. Like, there's infinite versions of us. So if we want to be, say, if there's a certain version of us we want, we can literally just tune into that version and become that version of us. And so that's why literally I'm honestly, like, when I tell my story, I feel like a completely different person now from when all that stuff was going on.
Totally.
But I'm able to tell the story because, I was there, but I don't have like emotional attachment to it anymore. I could look at it and be like, this was the
Exactly.
story, but I feel so far from it, like I don't feel
Yes.
like that person anymore.
Yeah, you can't
And
change
so
that
that,
things happened, but you can change how you feel about them, your reactions to them, your choices regarding them, and how you move forward from them. So
yeah.
you're a prime
And so,
example of
and
that.
that's why you're able to like quantum leap, because because time is an illusion. So you're able to like, but I will say that it does take, I feel like my spiritual high was one of those, it was basically to give me a taste of what it could be like if I
Yeah,
integrate everything. And so
I
it's
know.
really
The
about
ever
doing that.
elusive.
Yeah, it's really about doing that inner work. And the more you tap into the 0 point field, the closer, actually, the thinner the veil gets.
Hmm.
So you're able to tap more. And I know people, look at Joe Dispenza, like, he's made huge quantum leaps since his injury. Like, now
Yeah.
he's he's like selling out all over the world
And I'm so
with his
glad.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, it's definitely possible for people to like tune into it. I will say, yeah, it's like once we pass on from here too, we just remember we're back into that conscious. It's basically just, and that's a part of consciousness. The master's program I'm in is like
Mm,
consciousness lives on past the body, and so once you get back to that consciousness, that just the energy versus the body, you actually feel what time is like, and it's just everything happening all at once, and you can actually take in it all of it at once. But in this physical body, we have a brain, and so we can only take in so much at a time. So.
absolutely. And there's the science behind that too. It all connects,
Mhm.
and we're learning more and more, and it is so exciting. And that's what I want to
Uh-huh.
research in my PhD. Science and soul, baby. Thank you
Yeah,
for
I love
being
that.
such a wonderful example of overcoming all of the things that we can't control what may happen, but we can control how we respond and how we come out of
Mhm.
it. So you've done so beautifully, and you're helping so many people do the same. So thank you for the work that you're doing to make the world a better place. And thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you. It was definitely a great conversation.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. All right. Sonia, thank you so much for sharing your journey and your wisdom with us. And thank you for reminding us that leadership doesn't have to be about pushing harder. It can be about remembering more deeply. Your journey shows us that transformation isn't just possible, that it's inevitable if you choose to lead with your heart. For those listening, if you want to contact or learn more from Sonia, all of her information will be in the show notes. And remember, transformation starts the moment you choose to remember who you are. Until next time, keep shining.